The views and opinions in the following show do not necessarily reflect that of this station or its ownership.
Welcome to the Pat and Wally's Conservative Talk. I'm your co-host, Pat Gibbons, on WCGO 1590 AM or 95.9 FM. I'm with my co-host, Wally. Hey, Wally, what do you hear? What do you say?
Hello, Chicago.
It's going to be a beautiful day. It's going to be a beautiful show. We have a special guest on the show. But before I introduce that special guest, I have a message to send out. This past Saturday, we had a passing of a giant among men, Mr. Frank Coconati. Mr. Frank Coconati was an employee for the Water Management Department for many years. Mr. Coconati fought against the daily machine, running for several offices in the fight against socialist democratic ideology. I personally was proud to be involved as his campaign coordinator when he ran for Republican 9th District Cook County Commissioner. A great Trump supporter and a fighter for the conservative cause, he gave us representation through his moxie and his voice. A longtime Chicago community activist, he fought against the money-making scheming of red light cameras, calling for total abolishment. Mr. Coconati fought to bring back the death penalty to Illinois, specifically in the murder of a law enforcement officer or a child. Above all, Mr. Coconati of the Italian-American community was a patriot. Mr. Coconati fought for many years to bring back Columbus to a regal park. Mr. Coconati's legacy will never die in our hearts and in our minds. Frank was more than just one of the boys. He was a friend and brother to all. Personally, he was a father figure to me. Our community activist circle at a regal park will never be the same again. He was a loving son, brother, uncle, husband, and father. Frank is survived by his wife Annie, his son Frank Jr., his daughters Nina and Lucia. Our prayers go out to them and the entire Coconati family with heavy hearts, and the deepest of sympathies we say goodbye. If the legacy of a man is measured by the lives he has touched and how much he is loved, then a big piece of Frank Coconati will live on in all of us. With that, I ask all of us to join a moment in solidarity in giving silence to a great patriot. That being said, Mr. Coconati's wake is at Cumberland Chapels at 8300 West Lawrence Avenue, Norwich, Illinois. Visitation is Wednesday, June 28th, from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. Thank you. With that being said, we're going to go on to our special guest, Mr. David Shestokas.
Thanks,
Mr.
Pat.
David Shestokas. Mr. David Shestokas is a former assistant state's attorney from the Cook County government, works at the Chicago Board of Elections. Is that true?
I'm a hearing officer for Chicago Board of Elections. That's among the many things I do these days, yes.
Okay, an attorney at law at David J. Shestokas for Illinois, correct?
That's correct as well.
Okay. David, what do you hear? What do you say? How you doing?
I'm doing great, Pat. It's great to be here with you and Wally. Congratulations on your new show. This is certainly something that's needed here. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be part of this. I know you guys before we got introduced. We were talking about some of Chicago, some of South Side of Chicago. I grew up by Midway Airport.
Okay.
I went to St. Symphorosa. I mean, so there's places where you talk about what your parish was, and Chicago's among them, you know?
Right.
So I'm really happy to be with you guys today to talk about a variety of things, politics, elections.
Sure.
The upcoming independence of the United States, celebration of the Independence Day.
Yes, we will. Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of things that I know I hope to cover, so I'm excited to be here with you and Wally today.
And we're glad for you to come here. You have vast experience on the United States Constitution, is that correct? You have very good knowledge of it.
Well, I've written, of course, we have the one book that we're going to be talking a little bit about, creating the Declaration of Independence, but I also have another book that I wrote that's about the Constitution. It's called Constitutional Soundbites.
Okay.
I did do a radio show for about 5 years out of Florida. I'm licensed to practice law in Illinois and Florida.
Okay.
And I did a show there for about 5 years. We had any number of interesting guests. Among those were guys that had cases that were pending before the Supreme Court. They were litigating. I had a couple of congressmen. Byron Donalds is a congressman from Florida. He was on my show at the time.
Oh, very cool.
And we had some great shows that we did that, and that's how my first book got developed, because we had the show called Constitutionally Speaking, and I was over the air in both Naples and that area and in Tampa, and we did promos for the show. And the promos for the show were called A Minute of Constitutionally Speaking. And so I would answer in 90 seconds, what did Jefferson mean by all men are created equal? What is a well-regulated militia when it comes to the Second Amendment? And we'd give, a 60-second answer to that, and that was a promotion for the show. So I collected all those, and that turned into my first book, Constitutional Soundbites, which has 150 questions and answers put together in a way that is people when they hear about a book about the Constitution, they kind of get afraid, and especially if it's written by a lawyer, they think it's going to be a big, thick, complicated book. But this is not that. This is 90-word answers to simple questions.
Sure.
And it's really good for reading. Keep it in the bathroom. You know, I mean, you can open up. You can pick up something interesting about the Fourth Amendment,
sure.
Search and seizure, Fifth Amendment right to counsel, wherever you want. You can pick something up that's valuable for your use in the Constitution. When I got done with that book, even though it was about the Constitution, I found out that I had 140 references in my book about the Constitution to the Declaration of Independence. And it dawned on me that people do not or cannot understand the Constitution if they don't study the Declaration. And unfortunately, we do not study the Declaration of Independence.
Right.
So I wound up with the second book, the book that you guys I've gifted to you today, and I hope that you'll take a look at it before the 4th of July, because what creating the Declaration of Independence does is it follows Richard Henry Lee, who was the first guy to propose independence in the Continental Congress, John Adams, and Thomas Jefferson, from the period of June 7th, 1776, until July 4th, 1776. That is, what went into writing the Declaration? What did they think about? The kinds of things that they considered, and that's what it's a story about that, And it's really, really important for folks to know that. I hope that they kind of realize that the last sentence of the Declaration of Independence is where they dedicate their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. This tells you that, in fact, they were literally in danger of having their heads cut off when they went out to create the Declaration of Independence. It was actually dangerous. There's a short story in the book about a fellow by the name of Dr. Joseph Warren. And Dr. Warren was John Adams' personal physician, but beyond all that, he was a brigadier general in the Massachusetts militia. Beyond all that, he was president of the Massachusetts legislature. And Dr. Warren was killed at Bunker Hill. And in the aftermath of Bunker Hill, they had what they call these British execution squads. And the execution squads actually went out to make sure these patriots were dead. And among the things that they did was cut off their heads. And they, in fact, did cut off Dr. Warren's head. Dr. Warren, if he had not been executed at the end of Bunker Hill, likely would have been one of the top founders of the country. But here's another interesting bit about Dr. Warren. Oh, sorry, the side light of that before I move on is that the guys in Philadelphia that were declaring independence, they knew Joseph Warren. They knew somebody who, in fact, had their head cut off for opposing the British. So it's not like they were doing this just for grins, or they thought it was going to be fun to have a nice little revolution or something. They knew that this was very, very serious business. And a side story on Dr. Warren: his head and body were separated one from the other, so we know about Paul Revere and his midnight ride.
Yes.
Paul Revere was also a silversmith, and as a sideline, he used to do some dental work. And Paul Revere had, in fact, put in silver fillings to Dr. Warren in Dr. Warren's teeth. And it was Paul Revere's fillings that they used to identify Dr. Warren's head and put Dr. Warren's head back with his body. And that was, as far as we know, the first case of forensic dentistry in the history of the world, where they actually utilized, dental records to solve a mystery. That would be, whose head is this? And,
Very interesting.
And they put Dr. Warren's head back with his body. And so this came out about, there's a lot of interesting stuff. We don't teach enough American history.
Right.
People don't appreciate those kinds of things, and I'm sure we'll get into it. So
You know what the problem is? There's a lot of horrible liberalism going on, specifically in Chicago public schools.
Yes.
You see a whole chapter on Malcolm X, but you only see a paragraph on Ronald Reagan.
yeah,
Figure that one out. You know?
I can't figure it out.
Right.
It's impossible. And that's not to say that Malcolm was not a historical and important figure to note, but to overlook these other kinds of things like Ronald Reagan, or for that matter, we don't teach the Declaration of Independence at all. I'm going to just revert back to that for one primary reason. There's everybody. I'm sure you guys. They made you guys study and memorize the preamble, the "We the People," in order to form a more perfect union, etc.
Yes.
Frankly, that's really nice, but it really doesn't say much of anything of real importance. It's kind of a mission statement, and it doesn't have the force and effect. In the Declaration of Independence, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that governments are instituted among men to secure those rights, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That is what we should be teaching, because that, on the very first day, defined what we are as Americans. And I would love to see everybody get together on the 4th of July, recite those 55 words. They're in the book. If you got some friends, neighbors coming over, pull out those 55 words and everybody get together and say, this is what we do on the 4th of July.
Do you think it's because it's a government school, they don't want to teach anything on the revolution, anything like that?
Well, the next section of the Declaration of Independence indicates that, in fact, if the government fails to do those things, fails to secure those rights, it is the duty of the people to alter or abolish the government. And in fact, you will not find a government school teaching the right of revolution. That is why you will not find a government school that teaches the Declaration of Independence, because it teaches the people that they have the right of revolution. That is, if the government's not doing its job, you have the right to get rid of it.
Very interesting. Very good. Oh,
I'm sorry, I took up your whole
no, it's okay. We're going to commercial break. We would love to have a caller. Our phone number is 877-711-5611. Again, 877-711-5611 on the Pat and Wally's Conservative Talk. Thank you.
Producing your own podcast can be frustrating.
Test 1, 2.
Which is why I'm glad to be introducing the brand new multi-format network. We offer digital media, podcasting, and radio broadcasting professional standard production and syndication. Whether you're looking to bolster and polish your business presentations for a Zoom interview, host your podcast, or push your nationally syndicated radio broadcast to a satellite, we can facilitate your every need. So when you're ready to look, sound, and be professional, don't just try to do it yourself. Contact the professionals at the new multi-format network, the Multi-Format Network. From professional syndication to personal vindication, we've got your back. Shoot us an email, mfngeneralmanager@gmail.com. mfngeneralmanager@gmail.com.
Hello, radio listeners. Welcome to WCGO 1590 AM or 95.9 FM. We have a new conservative show on the airwaves, and it's called Pat and Wally's Conservative Talk. I'm your co-host, Pat Gibbons. That being said, I'm going to pass the mic on to my friend and co-host, Wally. Hey, Wally, what do you hear? What do you say?
Hey, how's everyone doing today? We're just going to talk about the future, about Chicago crime and the veterans in Chicago.
Tune in Mondays and Tuesdays from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Conservative Talk Radio with Pat and Wally. Should be a great show. We look forward to your engagement. We'll be talking about safety issues in the city of Chicago, how our veterans need help and assistance, better needed care. And also, too, very importantly, we are going to talk about the Chicago mayor that needs to be called out. I'm Pat.
I'm Wally.
And this is Pat and Wally's Conservative Talk. Tune in to Pat and Wally's Conservative Talk on Mondays and Tuesdays from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m., starting June 5th.
It is estimated that 1.5 million people are arrested for DUI every year in the United States. In Illinois alone, over 30,000 motorists are arrested for DUI. Driving under the influence of alcohol, marijuana, or drugs is one of the most complex of traffic charges on the books. Most people do not understand the complexities of the standardized field sobriety tests, which are horizontal gaze nystagmus, the walk and turn, and the one-leg stand test. Due to improper testing procedures, many people are wrongfully charged with DUI. Whether you have been charged with a DUI or an attorney handling DUI cases, the book DUIs Decoded explains the proper procedures for standardized field sobriety testing, breathalyzer testing, and the penalties in Illinois for driving under the influence.
Real estate, be it residential or commercial, is often a person's most significant and priciest asset. Entering into a contract to buy or sell a real estate property is much more than just filling in the missing blanks on the printed contract. It's wise to hire a lawyer to prepare or review the offer to purchase real estate and take full advantage of his legal expertise. With Mark Sheblow, you will gain an attorney with over 26 years of legal practice and one who has helped thousands of clients to buy or sell their homes or investment property. We will safeguard your interests and might be able to even negotiate a better bargain than a client without proper legal counsel ever could. Oftentimes, a prospective buyer will submit an offer without first consulting an attorney, not realizing that once the offer is accepted by the seller, it becomes a binding contract. And the terms of that contract are not easy to be changed afterwards. Likewise, as a seller, you too will benefit from first consulting an attorney before signing. Feel free to call us for consultation at the law offices of Mark Sheblow at 773-775-5050. Our website is sheblowlawoffice.com. Mark Sheblow can be reached 6 days a week at 773-775-5050, Monday through Saturday, located at 5945 North Elston Avenue in Chicago. That's attorney Mark Sheblow, 773-775-5050.
All right, welcome back to the Pat and Wally's Conservative Talk on WCGO 1590 AM. Our guest, David Shestokas. David, what do you think about red light cameras? Big scam, huh?
It's a scam, yeah.
Right.
No, it's all about the money. It's got nothing to do with safety.
Sure.
You know, for starters, it has nothing to do with that. For seconds, of course, you know, how do you test it? How do you get it? You do have the right to confront your witnesses. That's a Sixth Amendment right.
Right.
How do you confront a camera?
Exactly.
You cannot cross-examine a camera. You cannot cross. How do you get the metadata? The metadata that actually confirms that the camera took the picture of you at that particular point in time. Mm-hmm. There's issues about, of course, who was in fact driving the car, because the camera doesn't typically get the driver.
Sure.
The camera typically just gets a license plate, and the camera can be set. You can put these settings on the cameras to have them do anything you want. Anything the guy that set the cameras together. It's a scam. It's got nothing to do with safety. It's all about the money. Mm-hmm. You know.
State of Ohio deemed it unconstitutional.
Yeah, and that would be on the Sixth Amendment Confrontation Clause.
Okay.
It's what they call the Confrontation Clause, where you have the right to confront witnesses against you. And in fact, how do you confront a photograph? There's nobody that takes the photograph. You know, you can't confront the photographer. You can't say, well, were you there? Did you push the button? Does this picture fairly and accurately represent what happened at that particular point in time? Mm-hmm. Which is when you have a photograph in a courtroom, you have to do what they call lay a foundation. Laying a foundation requires you also, generally speaking, to get a photographer or to get somebody that was there, so that it's corroborated at the time, that somebody can say, yes, that photograph accurately represents this what's in the picture, and I was there, and I can confirm that. But a red light camera that's automatic, that's set off, you have no way to confirm. You have no way to cross-examine or lay a foundation. So it runs afoul of what they would call the Confrontation Clause of the Sixth Amendment.
How can one overturn the red light camera in Illinois?
You have to go, somebody that and that's one of the problems is these things are sort of they're not too terribly expensive. I mean, for an individual, they're like $100, right? $100, $150, whatever the fine turns out to be, and to file an appeal. To file you can't. They get decided by an administrative judge in the first place.
Okay.
If you appeal the thing, it goes to an administrative law judge who is not actually a real judge. He's actually somebody that works for the city. Mm-hmm. And then the administrative judge, their job really is to get as much revenue as they can.
Sure.
It's not necessarily to do justice. But then, but you can appeal that from the administrative law judge to the circuit court, and then if you lose in the circuit court, you can appeal it to the appellate court. Then from the appellate court to the Illinois Supremes.
Right.
And somewhere along the line, if you wanted to contest the Sixth Amendment confrontation issues of this case, you would have to say that in the very first case. You'd have to say it in front of the administrative law judge. If you don't bring it up to the first guy, none of the higher courts will ever address it. You can't say later. So it's a complicated thing. And as it turns out, it's of course $100 to pay the ticket, right?
Right.
And to file the case in Cook County Court, it's probably $300 filing fee, and another $60 to serve the city with the summons on the appeal. And once that happens, then you have appeal costs at the appellate court. This doesn't count the lawyers. This is just the money the government charges you. Mm-hmm. So so people go, geez, am I going to pay the $100? Or am I going to protest this all the way up to the Illinois Supreme Court and spend $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 to go to the Illinois Supreme Court to get this issue resolved?
Over $100 ticket.
Over $100 ticket, and that's how they get away with some of these small, if you will, infractions on our constitutional rights by making it way too expensive to enforce the rights. And so it's a difficult problem.
It's unfortunate. The hardworking blue-collar person is penalized left and right, but you have criminals out there with felony records up the wazoo. The Cook County Jail is a revolving door, David. Yeah, we were talking before the show. I was telling you a little bit about my experience when I was a Cook County state's attorney in the early mid-'90s, through the course of most of the '90s. I was a Cook County state's attorney, and during that period, on the average, we would prosecute about 40,000 felonies a year. Mm-hmm. Last year in Cook County, they prosecuted 12,800. That's ridiculous.
And
Big difference.
Yeah, it's a huge difference. There's this automatic situation where the state of Illinois, the law says that a $300 theft in a retail store, retail theft, is in fact a Class 4 felony. Kim Fox's office will not charge a Class 4 felony unless somebody hits $1,000 or more. Mm-hmm. So I think criminals walk in with a hand calculator that they stole at a store down the street, and then go, okay, sort of like the Let's Make a Deal or the the grocery shopping game show, and they go, okay, well, I'm at $990. I fill this up. I'm walking out of here, and they will not be prosecuted. And of course, that's why. I don't know why Walmart's gone.
Right.
Why Walmart closed? Well, when they talk about food deserts and pharmacy deserts and That's because nobody can operate a retail store to provide those services for people and have everything walking off the shelves. Or
True.
the flip side of that is, of course, they can't lock everything up and still do business. Because they can do one of two things. They can either let people walk out, or they can lock it up. In which case, they have to have somebody walking around unlock all the stuff. So it's this is. And that's just the retail theft side. That got nothing to do with all the other violent crimes and other kinds of things that aren't prosecuted. We had, on the average, the Cook County Jail itself was built to hold 12,000 people. That was the capacity that was designed for. Right now, my last time I looked at it, the population of Cook County Jail is about 3,800 folks. So on the average, you've got about 8,000 folks running around that, in theory, should have been not part of the population and doing the bad things. But it's even worse because those 7,000 or 8,000 people, they have friends, and their friends know that they won't get that there's no penalty for them doing criminal actions.
Right, little to no bail now.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
Yeah. So it's a whole bunch of and a lot of it falls on the shoulders of the state's attorney's office. I have a lot of when I was a state's attorney, a whole bunch of my former colleagues are now judges, right? And I talk to them from time to time, and the judges say they can't trust the information. When you have a bond hearing, you go in, and the state's attorney is supposed to indicate what bond would be appropriate, and here's why. Here's the criminal background. Here's the criminal history. Here's the basic probable cause of this case, et cetera, et cetera. So they say all the bad things. Then, of course, the defense attorney should say, well, he's got friends in the community. He's a father, et cetera, blah blah blah. But now the judges do not get the full story to make the appropriate findings in terms of holding somebody for trial, or what's an appropriate bail. So it's very frustrating for a lot of folks I know that were back when last year, for folks that don't know, I was a candidate for Illinois Attorney General, and the phrase for our slogan for the campaign was "Make crime illegal again," and that's everybody. I was reading that there's like this $400 million anti-violence budget for the city of Chicago. It's not really complex. You take the violent people and take them off the street.
Amen.
And
That's right.
And you don't need $400 million to do that.
No.
So it's not. But it's a horrible black eye. And some other things I learned is it's not just it's bad enough for the folks here in Cook County, but I had the opportunity to spend quite a bit of time with Sheriff James Mendrick out in DuPage. Wonderful, wonderful guy. But Sheriff Mendrick shared with me that at any given moment, 70 to 80% of the folks that are in the DuPage County Jail are people that were set free
From Chicago?
From Cook County, from Chicago, exactly. And so the impact of these soft on crime, or whatever you want to call these progressive prosecutors, the impact goes so far beyond just the people in the neighborhood where it's being happening. From what I understand, just last week there was a shooting out in Willowbrook. My understanding is the people they're looking for are Cook County people that were let out of jail in Cook County. I understand it was just yesterday down not far from home. There was a shooting in Romeoville.
Yes.
And my understanding is the people they're looking for, again, are folks that had been in custody in Cook County that are out. So the repercussions all around the state of Illinois.
It's spilling over.
It's spilling over. It's incredible. I know we have an election coming up next year, and there's a lot of things on the ballot, a lot of offices on the ballot, all of which are important. But if there is one office that can have an impact on the life of the people of the state of Illinois, it is, in fact, the Cook County State's Attorney's Office.
Amen. David, are you going to be running for state's attorney?
I have been. There's been any number of people that have been asking me to do so, encouraging me to do so. We're certainly giving it some serious consideration. We have about 3 months left before they start circulating petitions for the fall. Whether it's me or whomever, if it's me, we're certainly going to work hard. If it's not me, I'm going to try and work with whomever the candidate is that will do, in fact, make crime illegal again. Because this is the thing that needs to be done. It's not a complex problem.
Right.
Everybody says it's this complex. While we were before we were on the air, you were giving me the box score of the last weekend shootings.
What's the box score, Wally?
29 shots, 8 dead.
That's actually an improvement.
Yeah, the week before it was almost 3 times on both counts now.
75 wounded, 11 killed.
Yeah. And they print that like it's part of the sports score these days, and announce it like it's a box score. This is a horrible, horrible thing, and it's not the complex problem everybody makes it out to be. It's a function of we don't even actually need any new law. Mm-hmm. We don't need any new law. We just have to enforce the law that there is, and we'll. Whomever, whether it's me or somebody that I think would do this job as well as it should be, I think, and I do think the opportunity at this point in time for, in fact, a Republican to win the Cook County State's Attorney's Office is really, really high. It's really existent. While I was campaigning last year, I campaigned in black churches. I campaigned in Hispanic churches. I campaigned all over the city. I was with the Romanians and the Latvians and the Polish folks and the Lithuanians and everybody wants the same thing. Everybody wants to be safe. Everybody wants their kids to be safe. It doesn't matter. There's no color about your desire for safety. Yes. None of that has anything to do with that. So I think the opportunity is very, very high. We do have to do some things to make sure the elections are square, and that's a whole separate subject, and maybe we'll talk about that before we get done today.
Mm-hmm. A lot of crooked stuff going around.
Especially here, Chicago.
Always in Chicago.
Yeah. It's the whole vote early, vote often, and we can go back to John Kennedy and Richard J. Daley, who, by the way, when you talk about being South Side and this and that, when I was a kid, we had tickets to the White Sox games, and Mayor Daley used to sit 2 rows in front of us at the White Sox games when I was a kid, which is really cool. And I have actually programs at home that have autographs with Billy Pierce, Minnie Minoso, and Richard J. Daley. Cool. One of these days, my grandkids maybe will do something with them on eBay. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But at the moment, I'm very, very proud of having those. But
you're a Sox fan.
Yeah.
Well, I'm definitely voting for you.
Absolutely.
I'm a Blackhawks fan.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. I got it. I grew up with Bobby Hall, Eric Nestorenko, Pierre Palat, Chico Mackey.
Okay.
We go along with those. It wasn't that in 2010, Hawks win the Stanley Cup. And I went, oh my God, this is so cool. And then I went, I was there in 1960. And I went, I am an old guy, because I said I was around and I actually saw it when the Hawks won the Cup in 1960.
Oh, wow.
So we'll get to. I'll come back. I'll tell you, they used to have chicken wire around the rink with holes cut in it for the cameras. All right, we'll be back.
All right, we'll be back at Pat and Wally's Conservative Talk.
You guys want to talk about the carjack?
Hosting your own podcast can be frustrating.
Test 1, 2.
Which is why I'm glad to be introducing the brand new multi-format network. We offer digital media, podcasting, and radio broadcasting professional standard production and syndication. Whether you're looking to bolster and polish your business presentations for a Zoom interview, host your podcast, or push your nationally syndicated radio broadcast to a satellite, we can facilitate your every need. So when you're ready to look, sound, and be professional, don't just try to do it yourself. Contact the professionals at the new multi-format network, the Multi-Format Network. From professional syndication to personal vindication, we've got your back. Shoot us an email, mfngeneralmanager@gmail.com. mfngeneralmanager@gmail.com.
Hello, radio listeners. Welcome to WCGO 1590 AM or 95.9 FM. We have a new conservative show on the airwaves, and it's called Pat and Wally's Conservative Talk. I'm your co-host, Pat Gibbons. That being said, I'm going to pass the mic on to my friend and co-host, Wally. Hey, Wally, what do you hear? What do you say?
Hey, how's everyone doing today? We're just going to talk about the future about Chicago crime and the veterans in Chicago.
Tune in Mondays and Tuesdays from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Conservative Talk Radio with Pat and Wally. Should be a great show. We look forward to your engagement. We'll be talking about safety issues in the city of Chicago, how our veterans need help and assistance, better needed care, and also, too, very importantly, we are going to talk about the Chicago mayor that needs to be called out. I'm Pat.
I'm Wally.
And this is Pat and Wally's Conservative Talk. Tune in to Pat and Wally's Conservative Talk on Mondays and Tuesdays from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m., starting June 5th.
It is estimated that 1.5 million people are arrested for DUI every year in the United States. In Illinois alone, over 30,000 motorists are arrested for DUI. Driving under the influence of alcohol, marijuana, or drugs is one of the most complex of traffic charges on the books. Most people do not understand the complexities of the standardized field sobriety tests, which are horizontal gaze nystagmus, the walk and turn, and the one-leg stand test. Due to improper testing procedures, many people are wrongfully charged with DUI. Whether you have been charged with a DUI or an attorney handling DUI cases, the book DUIs Decoded explains the proper procedures for standardized field sobriety testing, breathalyzer testing, and the penalties in Illinois for driving under the influence.
Real estate, be it residential or commercial, is often a person's most significant and priciest asset. Entering into a contract to buy or sell a real estate property is much more than just filling in the missing blanks on the printed contract. It's wise to hire a lawyer to prepare or review the offer to purchase real estate and take full advantage of his legal expertise. With Mark Sheblo, you will gain an attorney with over 26 years of legal practice and one who has helped thousands of clients to buy or sell their homes or investment property. We will safeguard your interests and might be able to even negotiate a better bargain than a client without proper legal counsel ever could. Oftentimes, a prospective buyer will submit an offer without first consulting an attorney, not realizing that once the offer is accepted by the seller, it becomes a binding contract. And the terms of that contract are not easy to be changed afterwards. Likewise, as a seller, you too will benefit from first consulting an attorney before signing. Feel free to call us for consultation at the law offices of Mark Sheblo at 773-775-5050. Our website is sheblolawoffice.com. Mark Sheblo can be reached 6 days a week at 773-775-5050, Monday through Saturday, located at 5945 North Elston Avenue in Chicago. That's attorney Mark Sheblo, 773-775-5050.
Come on, baby, don't you wanna go?
Okay, we're back on the Pat and Wally's Conservative Talk on WCGO 1590 AM or 95.9 FM. We would like to have a caller or two. Our phone number is 877-711-5611. Again, it's 877-711-5611. Our guest, David Shestokas.
Excellent.
I'm getting better at it.
Excellent. You're getting better at it.
I'm getting better at it.
You're getting better at it.
Let's go with this book, David.
Sure.
Creating the Declaration of Independence. Looks like a very good book.
Yeah, it's as I was mentioning in the first segment. You can't. Everybody talks about how they love the Constitution. They carry a pocket Constitution, and this and that. The truth is the Declaration of Independence is the inspiration, and the Constitution is the execution. There is nothing in the Constitution, for the most part, that was not inspired by the Declaration of Independence. So everybody that says they love the there's something in the Constitution called Article 6. Article 6 of the Constitution requires everybody, whether they're in the legislative branch, the executive branch, the judicial branch, everybody to take a oath to support the Constitution, right? Because I'm a member of the judicial branch as an attorney, and because of my time as a state's attorney, because I was elected to Lamont Library Board, I've taken an oath to support the Constitution 8 times.
Okay.
But there's plenty of folks like the folks in the military, like our first responders, that literally, when they take that oath, they're also putting their lives on the line when they take their oath, right? Oh, okay.
A caller. Okay, go ahead.
You've got Big Sill.
Big Sill. What do you hear? What do you say, Big Sill?
Oh my God, this is amazing. Hi, Dave. Hi, Pat and Wally.
Hello.
I love you guys.
We love you too.
And I just wanted to tell you that I took an oath, guys, and I am the actual first responder to lose my job for calling the police on crimes against humanity back in 2019 in Crook County. Yeah, Westlake Hospital versus Pipeline Health. I was warning everyone, get out of healthcare. They're going to kill the entire world, guys. So, yeah, I'm the actual one that called the police, one of 7. They escorted me out of my hospital, paraded me through my whole entire hospital, guys.
Wow.
So embarrassing.
This is about COVID?
So, I was warning them that they were planning something big. Yeah, so we rallied in Chicago, and we rallied in front of the AMA. We gathered many doctors, many healthcare professionals, of which many doctors had to run for cover and leave Illinois because their licenses were being jeopardized.
Yeah, that time frame, that period that was about launching, about the time you got in trouble, we're still suffering through the situation where they trampled on our civil rights in so many respects, so many different ways. I actually filed a lawsuit on behalf of a church in Grundy County in Morris, Illinois, standing in the word ministries, and we had the church open within 2 weeks. They tried to close the church down because of these COVID restrictions and these other things, and they certainly trampled on the rights of medical professionals who objected or did not disagreed with the government policies about what they were supposed to do regarding whether it was social distancing, primarily the vaccine situation, because there was so much money involved in there. But they actually, for people like yourself to have the justice system come down upon them for expressing your First Amendment rights was just the tip of the iceberg. That was the beginning, and then we suffered through 2 more years, 2.5 years, and I don't think we're done yet. From what's left over from that situation, and it requires people to stand up. And God bless you, Sil, for doing what you thought was right by the people you were caring for, as opposed to succumbing to the pressures of the so-called experts who were actually there imposing their will to actually, it wasn't really about public safety. It was about power. It was like when we were talking a bit before about red light cameras. Red light cameras aren't about public safety. They're about money. These are the kinds of things that we have to stand up and control in our government. I suggest, however, that one of the things that we really have to control, one of the reasons that we have these kinds of problems, is the lack of security we have for our elections. When you see the government, of course, next week we have an automatic increase in our gas taxes, right? We have an automatic increase in our gas taxes that was imposed I think it's 6 years ago, and it's increasing. Do you think that there's possibly a majority of the people of the state of Illinois that are in favor of having an automatic increase in our gas taxes?
No.
Of course there's not.
Definitely not.
Yeah, of course there's not. And so when you look at those kinds of issues, issues like involving yourself, could there possibly have been a majority of the people wanting their churches to close down? Of course not. So when you see the government doing things that it's quite clear that the majority of the people of a given jurisdiction or state or a county would not possibly be in favor of when they say they're doing this, even though there's no. Think about elections. Think about elections, because what the message that they're sending you there is they don't care about elections. And this is the danger. This is the real danger to our country. Everybody needs to be involved in those issues where they can. And God bless you, Sil. Thanks for calling. Thanks for your standing up for the rights of your patients and the people that you were caring for.
Thank you, Sil.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
God bless.
It was a pleasure being on here with you guys. God bless you all.
Thank you. God bless you, too.
Awesome.
So that was a nice bit of transition, but we were talking a little bit about the Declaration of Independence.
Sure.
We're going to go back there, and she mentioned that she'd taken an oath. There is the oath in the Article 6 of the Constitution for everybody to swear to support the Constitution. But the truth is that the folks that do that, the folks that put their lives on the line, that go out and die, or even put themselves in danger, even if they don't. They're not doing that because they took the oath of the Constitution. They're not doing that so that the president can serve 4 years. They're not doing that so that the Congress can, or so that the House of Representatives institutes tax bills, or that the Supreme Court has the last word on constitutionality. Those are all mechanical things. They're doing it because we hold these truths to be self-evident.
Sure.
They're doing that because of the things that define an American that are found in the Declaration of Independence. And so that's what, to some degree, that's what this book, Creating the Declaration of Independence, is about. But what it does is it starts with Richard Henry Lee, June 7th, 1776. Richard Henry Lee gets up in the Continental Congress, and he proposes the independence of the United States of America. And on June 7th, 1776, there was only one guy, John Adams, out of all the other guys in the Congress that time in Philadelphia. There's one guy that stood up and said, "I'm with you." Nobody else did. And they did what they did is what the legislatures still do to these days when they don't want to deal with something. They formed a committee. They said, "Yeah, okay, you take this to a committee and you go think about this, and we'll do that." And one of the committees they put together was a committee to write a declaration, in case, on the off chance that they might vote for independence. And they put 5 folks on the committee, and one of whom was Benjamin Franklin. There was another guy from New York and another guy from South Carolina. Whose names escape me at the moment because they didn't really have much to do. And then Adams and Jefferson, you'll like this. They went to a place called City Tavern and had a couple of beers. And while they had a couple of beers, Adams talked Jefferson into writing the Declaration of Independence.
You always get the best ideas after having a couple of beers.
Yeah.
See that?
Yeah.
Get a little buzzed.
You get a little buzz, and Adams says to Jefferson, he says, Jefferson says to Adams, "Well, you're probably going to write this, aren't you?" And he says, "Tom, I'm kind of obnoxious. People don't like me very much, and you're from Virginia. We need somebody from the South rather than me from Massachusetts. We're troublemakers in Massachusetts. They don't want to mess with us, And besides all that, Tom, you write about 10 times better than I do, And so Tom's had a couple of beers. He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah, maybe I do." And so that's when Jefferson actually agreed to write the Declaration of Independence. He didn't want to do it. He wanted to be back in Virginia. He thought Virginia was going to be more important stuff. And so it traces. So the book traces the time with those guys in the tavern, the situation with Richard Henry Lee, how it was that he had to leave. Philadelphia, go back to Virginia because his wife was really sick. And actually, they had formed the committee already. Thought Richard Henry Lee was going to be on it, but he had to leave town. So Thomas Jefferson was like a late last round draft choice. They threw the guy. They threw him on. They said, "Well, we need somebody from Virginia. He's young. He writes pretty good. So let's throw him on. Yeah, let's throw him on the committee." Exactly. And I think what's cool about this book is that it tells you stuff about these folks that they're not statues. They're not bronze statues. They're not marble. They're not the kind of. They're actual living, breathing people whose wife gets sick, who doesn't want to do this, who's worried about air conditioning, who's worried about that it's so hot in the room where they're working. And I think it's really important for people to understand that these are living, breathing, real live folks that were going through this stuff, and it follows them. One side story that's it's also in the book, but Jefferson was writing. He had a desk. His desk he had rented an apartment. His desk is up against the wall, and the window is out to his left. And he kept when he wanted to get up and think about something and look out the window, he had to get up and look up. So what he did was he actually said, "Geez." He went over. He took apart the window. He took the rollers off the window. He cut the top off the chair, the seating part, bolted the rollers in on the bottom of the seat, and put that back and bolted that to the chair. And while he was writing the Declaration of Independence, Thomas Jefferson invented the swivel chair. So anybody that's anywhere sitting at a desk or listening to this now, or you twist around, there's our producer is swiveling over here. He's just swiveling himself up.
There you go.
It's Thomas Jefferson you have to thank for the invention of the swivel chair, and it was while he was writing the Declaration of Independence.
Wow.
Those are the kind of things that are in the book too. It tells you some interesting stuff. There's some other things about Jefferson that people should know that you find in there that was everybody talks about these guys as rich old white slave owners, right?
Yes.
And disses the guys and says, they're horrible and we shouldn't pay attention to them because they're rich old whites. Jefferson was 33 years old. He was a young guy. Ben Franklin was the only old guy. Franklin was like about 80-something. And he was an old guy. He was the founder and the chief proponent of the Pennsylvania Abolition Society. And in fact, Franklin made so much money, but he didn't make money owning slaves or cotton or anything like that. He made it by inventing a lightning rod. He invented glasses. He invented the Franklin stove, printing services. He ultimately became the first postmaster general.
Yes.
That's true. He made millions. He was so rich that he took he put together an endowment for the Philadelphia Public Library, and the Philadelphia Public Library is still getting income from Ben Franklin's endowment from 1799.
Wow.
And one last thing about Jefferson. Jefferson was the author of what they call the Northwest Ordinance. Northwest Ordinance ultimately would create Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Wisconsin, and Minnesota. Jefferson wrote the ordinance that outlawed slavery in that whole territory from the very beginning that it put together. That's why Illinois was a free state. That's why all these free states were in place to win the Civil War, was because they were free, because Jefferson wrote the Northwest Ordinance that made sure that slavery would never be in this territory. And these are things that people, Americans should know. They should know. They shouldn't allow us to be.
And also John Hancock also wrote our name.
Yeah, that's
the biggest.
That's a great story. There, let King George read that.
That being said, you gotta come on the show again, Dave. We love you here.
Okay.
All right.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's about that time.
Wow, I can't believe we're almost done.
Yeah, it's about that time. We will be back tomorrow at 1 o'clock. With Miss Lynn Franco, 11-4 GOP committee woman. With that, Pat and Wally says goodbye. God bless. Take care.
God bless.
It's my kind of
WCGO 1590 AM, W240EH 95.9 FM, Evanston, Chicago.